All right, good morning, everyone. We've got about a minute left until the top of the hour. I see Sandra, you're on the line. Thank you for being here. How are you doing today?
Great, Anne. Thank you for having me today.
Oh, I'm Christine, actually. I
Oh,
know
I'm sorry.
that's okay. I'm Christine Brown. I'm the Director of Member Engagement here at the Chamber. So it's great to have you with us. Thank you for taking the time. So while people are still hopping on, I'm seeing those numbers are still ticking up. So I'll go ahead and give it maybe a minute or two until we formally start. But I just want to welcome everyone here. It's great to see you as always. I know that it's been a long couple of months just getting together virtually. But it is exciting. We have some exciting news here at the Chamber. We're doing our first in-person event tomorrow morning, the first since early March before the government shut down in mid-March. Of course, it's going to be socially distant. We've got decals on our floor, 6 feet apart, chairs 6 feet apart. So it'll be different, but we're excited to welcome about 19 Chamber members back into our building tomorrow. So we're excited to see how that goes, and hopefully there's some people on the call who are looking to join us. So we're excited to see some folks in person, even with masks on their faces. So thanks everyone for being here. Let me go ahead and take a look at the numbers real quick. All right. Looks like we're still getting some folks trickling in. So we'll go ahead and maybe wait another minute to get started if that's okay. But until then, while we're waiting, Chairwoman Morgan, would you like to introduce yourself and maybe share a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure. So my name is Sandra Douglass Morgan. I'm the chairwoman of the Gaming Control Board. And so the board is one of two regulatory bodies that regulate the gaming industry here in Nevada. I've been the chair since January of 2019, but prior to that, I was actually a member of the Gaming Commission. And so our jobs, we are the 24/7 gaming regulators, and the commissioner are part-time. So it's myself and two other board members. Your Northern Nevada board member who lives in Reno is Phil Caceros, and Terry Johnson is another board member. And so the two of us, Mr. Johnson and I, are located in Las Vegas. And I will say that COVID has definitely had us take on a different regulatory and enforcement role with gaming. And I'm happy to talk about that a little bit further with you all today.
Right, absolutely. Yep, I'm sure a lot of people have questions. And so just a quick reminder before we get started with our prepared questions. If you have questions that come to mind, if you're on this call, you hear something that piques your interest or you want to hear more about a particular topic, please use the chat function, and we'll try and reserve about 5 to 10 minutes at the end of the call in order to address whatever questions you may have today. So with that, we'll just go ahead and launch right in. So you alluded to this, just a moment ago, Chairwoman Morgan. But what has been the main focus of your job since the pandemic began? You said that there have been some changes.
Sure. Well, the primary focus for me as chair, because I'm also the executive director of the Gaming Control Board, has been to focus on how the gaming industry can continue to operate and function while keeping gaming employees and patrons safe during a pandemic. And so part of the state's public policy with respect to gaming is to foster the stability and success of gaming. And so I want to focus really on making sure that the gaming industry can still stay open and survive. Additionally, gaming must also protect the public health, safety, morals, and good order. And so we've had to kind of balance ensuring that the gaming industry can stay open with balancing the health and safety needs that unfortunately we're all in the middle of a pandemic. And so that has truly been my focus since March. Have had to rely on the assistance of board members and our chiefs on kind of more traditional gaming matters, but I've reviewed numerous health and safety plans, a lot of them from gaming operators, in multiple calls with health professionals, infectious disease specialists, and epidemiologists, and definitely those with local governments from all 17 counties to ensure that I'm up to date on COVID testing data, contact testing data, and trends. Typically, it wouldn't be something that a gaming regulator, I think, would be involved in, but with gaming kind of being the power horse behind the state's economy, it's really important that I feel that I'm abreast of those issues to know that when we're making any regulations or guidelines or policies, to know that I'm using the best, most up-to-date medical information available and ensuring that the operators understand what our roles and our guidelines are as well.
Right. I think it's no exaggeration to say that every industry has seen an unprecedented level of intersection with public health, that industries that are not used to taking into account health data in order to make decisions. It's not something anyone has really ever encountered, but here we are. And to that point, when it comes to gaming, aside from taking in data and using it to make your guidelines for casinos, health guidelines for casinos, what has that process been like to develop those guidelines, and what was your approach in setting those guidelines for gaming entities?
Well, first and foremost, we wanted to focus on employee training and employee safety. I think that when I had an opportunity to talk to some operators and convention and visitors authorities in Las Vegas, and I think part of the concern was making sure people wanted to come back to Nevada, that they knew that the people that were going to be hosting them, we are a customer service state, understood the COVID protocols, received proper training, proper PPE, and so that they knew that then when they went onto a property, that they would be in good hands. So that was first and foremost the thing that we addressed in our health and safety policies. Of course, there were things that honestly are still kind of, I don't want to say up in the air, but cleaning chips. There is no magic formula on how to clean chips. We had some operators that were cleaning them routinely and then they would start to fade. Well, that's not good from an integrity perspective for the Gaming Control Board. And so there are some things that we're still kind of working out, but obviously the constant theme has been social distancing, disinfecting on a regular basis, and of course the mandate for face coverings. And so when we came up with our policies, and they have been amended 3 times, with the most recent version being on June 25th, I worked with the Washoe County Health District Office, or Southern Nevada Health District, UMC. We had a workshop before gaming actually reopened. It must have been, I think, the last week of May, with medical professionals from renown. Dr. Slonim has been a wonderful resource and partner in just trying to get kind of our economy back. And Dean Dowd from REMSMA as well, from Northern Nevada, to kind of talk about what is the process from A to Z if we have a patron, regardless if it's a Nevada resident or someone from another state, who falls ill. Do we have the ability and the capacity to care for them from a healthcare perspective and from a hospitality perspective? And so those were the things that we looked at prior to doing our health and safety policy.
Right, and I can imagine that, with the 3 amendments that you've already made there, as things evolve, there are going to be more coming. So thank you to you and your organization for being light on your feet and willing to adjust as is needed. Can you describe some of the ways that casinos have perhaps struggled with some of the new COVID-19 guidelines?
What we've seen, unfortunately, I will say a significant majority of gaming licensees are complying with the COVID guidelines. The struggle that we're seeing are, it's really difficult to require a third party, a customer, to wear a mask. Well, a lot of the compliance issues that we're seeing are from customers. We do have some where gaming employees are not wearing masks or are interacting with patrons, and neither one of them are wearing masks, and that's been a big issue, obviously. And we're taking that very seriously. We've conducted thousands of inspections and observations since June 4th, and even more in July. We've issued about 150 notices of violation, and we are going to have some formal complaints as well. But I say that in that we have over 2,000 licensees, and a substantial majority of them are complying. And I'm very proud of the industry, because I think the gaming industry, compared to other industries in the state, definitely have a higher level of compliance. That being said, it's a privileged license, and it's our biggest industry. And so we need to make sure that people are complying. Obviously, it's really difficult for whether it be casino security personnel or any type of employee to have to interact with a patron and say, wear your mask, especially when many of those patrons, as you've seen on social media, or I'm sure just sort of accounts of saying that they don't want to. But what the governor's directive did allow is for businesses to refuse services to those people. Now, getting them off their property, I know, can be difficult, but making it very well known before they enter the business that they must wear a mask and must comply with social distancing, hopefully will prevent people that just don't want to comply from getting on their property, because ultimately it's going to put their license.
Right, absolutely. And I'm sure there are a lot of folks on the call from their respective industries who can certainly relate and empathize with the difficulties in maintaining compliance across the board, especially with patrons and customers. So we know, at least in theory, there will come a day that we have a vaccine that's reliable and effective, and we'll be able to go back to some semblance of what life was like before COVID. But I think what we all are grappling with as well is the fact that there's some things that are irrevocably changed. And there's some aspects of culture, there's some aspects of the way we conduct business that will always be in some measure altered. Do you foresee, after the, these waves of COVID pass, we have a vaccine. Do you see some ways that the gaming industry will be forever changed by the ways we've had to adjust during COVID?
I do think that even if there's a vaccine or some type of medicine that, maybe suppresses some of the symptoms, I think we as a society will forever be changed, because all of us are living in a pandemic that many of our grandparents, right, don't remember living through. And so I think your customer and its expectations with regard to ensuring that businesses are sanitized and disinfected, and just wanting that kind of that mental peace of mind that when they go to a business that they know that business is taking the proper precautions. I don't think that's going to go away when there's a vaccine. I think we're all just going to be, well, many of us will just be wired a little bit differently and wanting that kind of heightened level of security. To gaming specifically, we have seen an increased interest in cashless wagering. That is something that just, to kind of cut down on the amount of money and chips and other things that are exchanging hands. And so we're looking at that, and the Gaming Commission, on the recommendation of the board, in the last month or so, did approve the ability to use debit cards through a cashless wagering system at a table game or at a device. Of course, those types of solutions would have to go through field trials, and so we're going through that now. So I think that's something specific to gaming. Additionally, I think that you're going to see more innovative ways, whether it be in the hotel space or in the restaurant space, which are all included in resort hotels, of just ways to make things safer. For example, I'm a Wolfpack grad, but I do have to make this plug for the UNLV Lee Business School. They're actually doing a Lee Prize innovation to focus on COVID mitigation measures for the hospitality industry. And so it's $1 million prize, and people can actually put in new ideas on how to get people back to data. That is our goal, as being kind of a hospitality and tourism capital of the world. So, I think anything and everything's on the table, but definitely for cashless wagering, that's the request that I've seen the most since, I would say, March and April.
Right, and that's not surprising. And again, it's interesting to see these trends reflected across the board. How some retail businesses, for instance, have pivoted to doing curbside commerce, to making sure their websites are ready and able to sell the goods and services that they want to give to the public. And that's probably not going to change, because there are going to be people who might from now on always prefer to purchase online and pick up curbside. Like these are things that just could be irrevocably different for us moving forward. And for some, if it's not a public health concern, maybe it's more about convenience. And I think cashless payment is certainly something for many that's more convenient. So moving along that thread to some practical insight that you can provide. You've got a vantage point to the entire casino industry in the state of Nevada. What are some of the observations you've made of casinos, and what makes some, throughout this COVID-19 crisis, what makes some of them successful, and what is contributing to some of them struggling more to survive?
I think when we talk about success, I'm going to assume you're talking about monetary success, but I do think success can be defined in different ways. So I'll answer your question initially with regard to monetary success, and some of that is, let's assume everyone is complying with the health and safety guidelines. It's going to be the demographic of their customers. Obviously, the properties that are targeting locals and have drive-in markets are going to be more successful with regard to their revenue. Right now, based on the limited air travel, travel restrictions, obviously those operators that rely on air travel are going to struggle, and convention business will obviously struggle more than those in the local market. With regards, though, to the long-term success, I think that those properties who have made significant attempts to ensure that their employees are safe, whether it be through providing testing, giving good information, ensuring that their properties are disinfected, and marketing that safe way to entertain people, I think those properties are going to be the ones that will be successful in the fall or even in early 2021, because you have such a wide variety of customers. You have some that are going to go to a gaming establishment in the middle of a rainstorm, hailstorm pandemic, you know, and then you have some completely in the middle that just kind of want to wait and see how things pan out. And then you have some that probably will not travel for another 12 to 18 months. Those middle people who are slowly going to start coming back to Nevada, I think are going to do their research. Definitely think the ones that are middle-aged, a little bit older, are going to do the research, see which properties are taking it seriously, you know, kind of look to social media and see who have gotten complaints and who haven't, and obviously look at the Gaming Control Board as well and see, you know, which properties had issues. And so I think there's definitely going to be levels. One, monetary success right now is going to be based on local markets and drive-in markets, which are great. Those are actually the ones that are able to keep our state's economy still going. But for long term, until we get the convention business back, nightclubs, larger gatherings, it's going to take some time. But I think those that took the health and safety policy seriously, even when just the floor was open, are going to continue those best practices when we get to a point where conventions and other group business can resume.
Right, absolutely. And we're, just to let everyone on the call know, we're closing in on the last two questions for Chairwoman Morgan. So if you have any questions for her that you would like to have posed during the end of this call, now is the time to get those into chat. So please, if you have any questions, go ahead and put those into chat right now, and we will try and get to as many as we can at the end of the call. But with that, let's go ahead and turn to the governor and the legislature. So of course, last night during the governor's press conference, he announced that the next special session is imminent, as early as Thursday, potentially, although no official proclamation has been made thus far. This will be the second time the legislature is going to convene in the last couple of weeks to address some pertinent issues in regard to COVID-19 fallout and response. So my question for you, Chairwoman Morgan, is what kinds of policies are you and your office pursuing during these special sessions, if any?
You know, honestly, prior to COVID, I didn't communicate with the governor's office much at all. But after March, obviously, with gaming being the leading industry of the state, we had to at least communicate as to any directives that he was issuing and whether there would have to be any regulatory action on our part or industry notices that we sent out for the gaming industry. Specifically to your question about policy considerations for the special session, I don't foresee the Gaming Control Board. We're definitely not going to be introducing anything or asked to push anything. So I don't think that we will be involved for the special session. That being said, I don't think it's been officially declared yet, so I don't know the exact parameters of it. But obviously, if the governor's office or the governor himself or any legislator has any questions with regard to our regulatory function or how gaming operates or any questions about operations, we are always there to assist and answer questions, whether it be a special session or a regular session.
Great. And I'm sure the likelihood of being called to testify in these circumstances for anyone who is the lead of an industry is high, but especially for you, I imagine the likelihood is high. So thank you in advance for your insight and your contributions as our lawmakers are making those crucial decisions for our state. So for the final question, and you kind of addressed some of this when it came to your definition of success for some of our gaming properties in Nevada, but how would you define recovery for the gaming industry in Nevada? And what do you think that's going to look like?
Recovery in the sense of getting back to where we were in February, which was one of the best months that year to year from February 2019 to 2020 was one of the best that gaming has had. That's going to take some time, probably 12 to 18 months. We had the benefit of looking at some of the analysis that Applied Analysis did for the Resort Association, and additionally, they provided us expert testimony by way of a written report when we were considering the Eldorado Caesars merger that has now been officially conducted, and it, you know, the regional markets will recover faster than obviously Las Vegas. Hopefully Reno will likely recover faster than Las Vegas as well. But I think that looking at traditional gaming machines, tables are going to have to be how we are able to recapture revenue. Like I said, without the nightclubs and convention business kind of happening and other entertainment options. So I do think it'll be 12 to 18 months. Obviously, vaccine or some type of medicinal breakthrough will help expedite that. I also think that recovery is going to also look at not just different ways to generate revenue, but not only outside of gaming, but internally within gaming as well. And so I think it's unfortunately, it's going to be a wait and see. Hopefully we'll get a vaccine, if not by the fall, early 2020. I'm very optimistic that it'll be sometime in the fall, but if not, we will continue to adjust. I know that the gaming operators in the industry are some of the most innovative and creative people in the world, and that's why Nevada has been able to redefine itself, because it's always going to find ways not only to attract new customers, but retain existing ones. And I think for a lot of Nevadans, we're loyal. People outside of Nevada think of a casino as just a resort destination getaway, whereas we go there to see our friends, we go there to eat, we go there to just go to the movies and bowling for some properties. And so I think that hopefully Nevada residents will continue to keep this industry afloat, some of our neighboring states and drive-in markets as well. But hopefully we can get back to I don't like the term new normal, but I'll say a new Nevada by mid next year.
Excellent. And I think we all agree and share that hopeful attitude toward a vaccine or some kind of medical intervention. Our fingers are crossed, but like you said, Nevadans are innovative. And if there's something that has been the theme and something we've enjoyed watching, even from our vantage point as the chamber, we've enjoyed watching everyone get creative and figure out how to provide their services, how to provide the best that they can for customers and for those they're serving. So I think that's what we can expect to see, regardless of what any outcome is continued innovation and grit for sure. So we do have one fantastic question in chat so far, and again, we still have a good 9 minutes left in the call. So if anyone has any other questions, please fire away. Otherwise, we'll address this one and then perhaps end the call a little early if there are no more questions. But this one is very important and very timely, especially in light of the governor's remarks yesterday. Since the governor's new direction away from phasing to locality shutdowns, either by city or county or zip code, will you consider that concerning casino operations?
You mean as far as closing a gaming operation in an entire county?
It sounds like that's perhaps what this person is asking, is if any kinds of regulatory guidelines will impact either specific zip codes or properties, et cetera.
I don't know what the formula or criteria that, obviously I think we'll all see that hopefully by Monday. I think that's what the governor mentioned. So we'll look at the criteria and determine it. When we reopened gaming, it was clear that everything was going to be done at once. If the criteria allows that something to be happened either by locality or county, we will review it, but I'm going to be focused on the bad actors. I think that's the best way to do it. Obviously, we would like to have more people. We don't. We actually utilize some audit agents to go and be eyes and ears at some of our smaller locations. But I want to focus on the bad actors. We get calls and tips constantly. Most of them are unfounded, but for those that are, we definitely write up a report. And as I kind of mentioned, 150 actual violations of 2,000 licensees isn't a high number. But I want to focus on them and make sure if they're repeat offenders that they should have actions to close them down. We should take action to close them down. Now, an emergency closure does require 3 signatures of the commission. Obviously, we've researched that and we have had to take very steps to do that. Maybe about 5 to 6 years ago. It wasn't COVID related, but there were obviously some concerns, some financial concerns with how that property was being operated. So we do have some mechanisms to do that. I think that the governor wants to focus on bad actors and maybe bad certain segments within a resort hotel. So that will be to be determined, and hopefully I can have a better answer for you Monday once we see the actual director of the guidelines.
Right. Thank you so much. It's a tough question to answer today, especially, having only just more than 12 hours since the governor made the announcement, but thank you for sharing at least preliminarily what your approach might be. And there are no other questions coming in chat. We have one person saying, excellent presentation. Thank you, Chairwoman. So again, I want to.
I only paid Mr. Brown $10 to say that. Yeah, my former colleague. Thank you, Randy. Appreciate it.
Yes, excellent. We do have one more question. Let me see if I can parse through it and read it for you here. We saw recently some gaming operations find a loophole to have a pub with food that have brought in machines like the Dottie's model, or brought in.
Sorry, Christine, can you repeat that?
Sure, it's a little difficult. I'm trying to gather the intent of the question. We saw I'm just trying to read it verbatim right now. We saw recently some gaming operations found a loophole in which a pub with food that has enabled, what I'm gathering is that it's enabled places like Dottie's to continue operations. If small businesses or taverns are taking extreme models to stay afloat, I guess this person's question is, isn't that a sign of desperation?
I don't.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I understand
that's more of an opinion, but
so
with the governor's directive with regard to bars, I'm sorry, there's a weed whacker that, or like a little that's
no
doing my neighbor's house right now, so it's very loud. I couldn't hear you. The bar and the bar closure, and the bar closure directive also included bar areas. And in certain counties, and I'm not sure about Washoe, but I know definitely in Southern Nevada, there are certain requirements that certain gaming machines and taverns be embedded in the bar top. Based on the governor's directive, it was clear that those machines had to be turned off. The Gaming Control Board, even prior to the directive closing bars, because we required social distancing, so every other machine or every other chair had to be off, we did say you could actually request from our tax and license division the ability to bring in freestanding machines to move them around either the perimeter or some other place in your establishment so they could be socially distanced. And we've done that for any operator that wants to do that statewide. Of course, they would have to comply with their own local government ordinances, but from the gaming controls perspective statewide, if you have machines that are embedded in your bar top that have to be turned off as a governor's directive, and you want the ability to bring in standalone machines, that's something we'll definitely allow and consider.
All right, excellent. Well, it looks as though the person who asked the question says that you were able to ascertain what the meaning of the question was. So fantastic. Let's see. All right, I think that about wraps us up. Oh, looks like we've got one more. If someone has questions of non-compliance, where should they send them to?
By email, it should be ops@gcb.nv.gov.
Excellent. All right. All right. That rounds us out for questions, and we are just coming to the end of the half hour. So again, I want to give you my thanks, Chairwoman Morgan, for joining us today. We certainly would love to have you back, especially since this time period we're living in is not anywhere close to being over, and there will be more adjustments to be made and more to learn. So we would love to welcome you back in the next couple of weeks and wish you the best of luck.
Thank you, Christine, and thank you to your members who have definitely been leaders and as we try to kind of mitigate our way through this COVID crisis. Thank you for having me.
All right, thank you. All right, everyone have a wonderful day.